Hi, so I'm making this video to show how I track the financial aspect of my um, gig delivery business, if you will. I work primarily for DoorDash, Uber Eats, a little bit of Grubhub, a little bit of Amazon Flex, um, the fresh side of Amazon Flex. And over the years I've kind of, you could say, accumulated little spreadsheets. I've made spreadsheets to keep track of different aspects of the business. Um, so I just kind of wanted to show what I do. Um, the primary goal of all my spreadsheets is pretty much to make sure that I'm generating cash flow, which, you know, in business terms, like you would define that as the money that's left over after you pay for everything, right? So, like, it's like true profit. And that's the money that you have that you can actually reinvest into expansion and just whatever you want to do in a business, right? As gig workers, we have a very simple business, or you know, there's some aspects to it that are take a little bit of work, but compared to if you start your own true business, there's a lot more work involved, right? Like you might need some type of legal structure to that, different types of insurance, things like that. Whereas with the gig work, it's kind of like a dummied version of a business. They provide you with the customers. Um, they provide you with commercial insurance, or I mean, you have to carry insurance, obviously, if you're a DoorDash driver, but you don't have commercial insurance. You don't have general liability insurance. You don't have, you know, uh, cargo insurance. You don't have any of that stuff. So it's kind of like a dumbed down version of a business. Um, but yeah, so the main purpose of the spreadsheets really is to generate free cash flow. Now, as an individual person, or if you have a family or whatever, um, for me personally, when I look at that free cash flow, I'm actually looking at generating free cash flow through the business. So, you pay your maintenance and depreciation or whatever, gas, all that shit that's associated with gig work, and then you're left with your free cash flow, right? Your profit. Then once you take that profit, you push that into your personal account. So you separate business from personal, take that money, push that into your personal account, and then the goal is that at the end of every month, you're also in a way generating cash flow through your personal life, right? So for me, that's the true free cash flow in this business because we are pretty much spending everything that we make, or at least taking all the profit out of the business. There's I don't know anyone who's like leaving profits in the business because it's not really a true business. It is a business, but it's not really a business. But to me, that's what's important is that once you pay your business expenses, you're left with a profit, and then you move that over to your personal account. You spend a certain amount, but then you should be left with a profit every month because that's what makes you sustainable, right? Even if you even if you're only left with an excess of $250 per month, um, after your personal expenses, you're at least trending in an upward direction, right? Like most people, they're trending downward. By the end of the month, they have an extra $200 on a credit card. So they're trending down. Like even though you're not going to get rich doing gig work, it's you definitely want to be, in my opinion, you want to be trending up, right? So like even if you have 250 excess cash flow at the end of the month, hey, that's like an extra credit card bill or whatever the fuck that you could pay on and start working yourself in the direction of having wealth, right? So Um, I mean, I'm just gonna go into the shit that I do here. I think I've kind of talked enough. So the very first spreadsheet when I complete a shift, if I can go out at work, whatever, I complete a shift, I come home and I write down the amount that I've made um per app, right? So on the first of this month, I was off that day. I just did one order while I was out doing an errand, and I made 12 bucks, so I put that there. Then on the second of the month, I did DoorDash and Uber. I write Uber. I don't take passengers. I haven't taken passengers in over a year, but I just put Uber right here. That's Uber Eats. It's all Uber Eats. Then on the fourth, I did DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. You can see on the ninth, I did Grubhub, Amazon, and Roadie. And so this is just like my raw data. I just put all that in there, and then this thing auto calculates. It tells me how much. Um, so sorry, continue here. So this thing right here auto calculates how much I've made for that day. It just adds it all up. And then this tells me for that month, this is August, how much I've made from each thing. As you can see here, I have Prop 22. I live in California, so we get Prop 22. And then it breaks down the percentage of how much of my income is coming from each source. So, I don't really look at these too frequently. These are just it's kind of nice to have if you're the type of person that, likes to look at numbers and just gets excited about that, then, you know, that's kind of my thing. Okay, so once I have all that data there, I usually will put it onto this spreadsheet. This one's really simple. This is just giving me like a count. This is just giving me a year view of um my income. So year to date, I'm at like 31K or whatever. Okay, and then I have this spreadsheet. This is another one. This is I really like this spreadsheet. It's very helpful for me. This is my right here you can see it says pace. This is where I'm keeping track of my pace on the month. So when I put in how much I've made on each day, this thing auto calculates what's my pace for the month. So this I took about a week off just now and just this past week. So I have these are all just Prop 22 earnings or whatever. So I haven't really worked, so my pace has dropped pretty significantly. But when I go back to work, I'll go back to work tomorrow. I'm gonna be, my pace for the month will be about $4,000 if I continue at the rate that I've been going. So I don't know if that makes sense, but as I input numbers, like let's say tomorrow I'm at 200 bucks. Then it tells me, okay, you're pacing for 4,200 bucks. Then the next day I make another 200 bucks. Then it's like, okay, you're pacing for 4,300 bucks by the end of the month. And I make another 200 bucks. Now it's like, okay, you're pacing for 4360 by the end of the month. Then I make 100 bucks. And then it's like, okay, you're pacing for 4,300 at the end of today. And then you just, as you go, it just tells you what you're pacing, and it just keeps you honest, right? Like if like some people, they don't really schedule themselves out that much. Like they don't, there's a lot of people that just kind of vibe dash, it's just like, I kind of feel like working today, or, oh, I'm not really doing anything, so they'll just go out and dash, which is fine if you're doing this part time. That's really how you should, if you're doing it part time, that's pretty much how you should do it. You just kind of go out when you feel like it. But if you're full time like myself, you have to have certain structures in place that way you make sure you're hitting your revenue goals, because if I only do 2,000 in gross revenue for a month, well, that's not enough to cover my personal expenses. By the time I take out taxes and maintenance and all that shit, I'm going to be in the hole, and now I'm going to have to take money out of my savings in order to fund my next month of living. So definitely not ideal. So this just kind of I like this because it kind of keeps me on track for the month. And then these little colors just tell me when Prop 22 is ending, like the Prop 22 cycles. If you're in California, you know about that. If not, it's cool. Um, I also I haven't been doing this keeping track over here lately, but right here I keep track of the healthcare stipend. So again, if you're in California, you know about the healthcare stipend. I like to keep track of my where I'm at, how many hours I've worked, so I know how I'm pacing for the stipend and make sure I'm not falling behind on hours. So yeah, so that's again, that's where I kind of put in the raw numbers. And then once I've got the numbers there, then I keep track of my hourly, right? Um, to me, it's important to keep track of your hourly because I mean the hourly kind of, in a way, it kind of tells you how you're comparing to other jobs that require equal skill or just other jobs in general. It just if you don't know what your average hourly rate is over the course of, however much time that you're working, then I mean, you just don't really know how you're comparing to another job. You might be making like you might be making less than if you just picked up a W-2 job and you don't even know, or you might be making more. But to me, it's important to know that. So every day, I come in and I input the how much I made, how many miles I drove, what time I clocked in, what time I clocked out, and then this spreadsheet just spits everything out for me. Again, these are all custom spreadsheets that I've made for myself, just based off of the things that I personally want to know, so that that inform my decision making in a sense, right? So, um, these inputs here are estimates. They are not exact, but they're pretty close estimates. So under this column is fuel. This is the cost of fuel per shift, and then the total for the year. Then you got the cost of maintenance. This is per shift again and per year. Depreciation per shift per year. This is the total cost of maintenance, fuel, and depreciation. Then this is the how much I can deduct as a result of the mileage that I'm driving. This is how much I'm estimating to pay in taxes. It looks like I'm currently estimating my tax rate at 16%. It, you know, the taxes are hard to calculate because you don't really know how much you're going to pay in taxes until you've actually done your taxes. But I mean, I've been doing this for about 9 years, so, you know, I kind of know how much I'm going to pay in taxes. Pre-tax profit, this just tells me how much I've made on this particular shift, after subtracting fuel maintenance depreciation. And the net profit is fuel maintenance depreciation and taxes, gives you your net profit and then the net profit percentage. So year to date, my gross hourly rate is $29.61. That includes from the time I track the time from as soon as I get in the car at home, I turn on my mileage tracker, and then as soon as I backed up into the driveway or whatever, that's when I turn off the mileage tracker. So I'm including commute. And the reason I personally include commute is because I am open to accepting trips along the way to my house. Normally, you're not you can't deduct commute time from where you're or even sorry commute miles. You don't deduct time, but you can't deduct commute miles unless you're working, right? So you can deduct from your residence to like wherever you're going for your first hotspot or whatever. That's totally fine, and all the miles in between. But the commute back home is generally not considered tax deductible. Personally, I mean, I don't know how the IRS would deal with this, but I I put the destination filter on Uber Eats, so I am open to accepting trips along the way to my house. So I deduct those miles, And ultimately, like, let's say I work 200 days in a year. Maybe that's an average of 8 miles per day, 1,600 miles. It's not really make or break. But um, as far as tracking my hourly, I like to do that because that, to me, that gives me my true hourly because um, to me, I'm working from the time I click on to the time I click off. Technically, if you really wanted to consider it this way, you're kind of working from the time you get up and start getting ready because you probably wouldn't be getting ready for work if you weren't going to work. But that's not really a good, to me, that's not really a good estimate because, nobody tracks it that way. So I like to track it this way so that I can compare what I'm making to what other people are making. So if I'm on Indeed and I'm looking at jobs, I know what my numbers are, so I know if that's a good opportunity or not. So, year to date, 29.61, pre-tax $26, and then my net hourly is $23.69. This does not include things like supplies and bullshit like that, um, like phone chargers or whatever. But I have another spreadsheet where I do calculate that. Um, and then I track every month as well. So this is August. August, my hourly is pacing really well, but that's because I took a week off and all the Prop 22 had just hit, so it did push my hourly rate up. But Uh, I do believe that my hourly rate has increased. That's another thing that I've been working on. I think I made the yeah, so I made this. I didn't have this tab on this spreadsheet before. I'm now starting to track from month to month what my hourly rate is because I was not doing that before, and so I just kind of felt like in order for me to increase my hourly rate, because my hourly rate has been stuck at like $29 an hour gross for the longest time, or right around there, like 27 to 29. Um, and I just figured like, okay, if we're gonna improve this, we're gonna have to start tracking it. So that's another thing, excuse me. That's another thing that I started tracking is month to month, how is my hourly rate pacing? So I want to start seeing an improvement from month to month on the hourly rate. And, even if you're going up 50 cents a month or, 5% a month, 3% a month, you know, that it's great, like to me. So we actually do a compound. So actually, I wonder if I could just ask ChatGPT or something. If you increase your hourly rate, I wonder if this compound interest thing will fucking work. 34, or let's say $29 an hour. Monthly contribution, let's say zero, like the time in years. Let's say 1 year. Interest rate, 3%. No, I don't think this shit's gonna work. But anyways, if you were to increase your hourly rate by even 3% per month, and you do that for a year, compounded, like what's the fucking, how much more money would you make? If you increase your hourly rate starting at $29 an hour and you increase it by 3% per month over the course of 1 year and 5 years, what would your hourly rate be if it's compounding 3% per month? Okay, so within 1 year, you're making $41 an hour, so that's good. After 5 years, if you did the same shit, you'd be making $172 an hour. So, just making those. tiny little improvements, 3% per month. I think that's reasonable to try to increase your income by 3% per month if you're a gig worker, because you have a lot of things at your disposal. You can download a new app, you can fucking start stacking orders, maybe you're gonna move, like for me, I'm considering moving into the cargo van space, buy a cargo van, you take bigger loads. So I don't know, it's just kind of how I'm looking at it with that shit, but whatever. So yeah, keep track of my hourly. Then I have another spreadsheet where I keep track of my expenses. This is just basic. Like paying for a, um, instead of paying for like a budgeting app, I just do it here because there's not a lot of expenses coming through, so it's not really worth it to pay for a whole thing. So this month I spent $117 on gas and some other bullshit. Then I track it for the year, $695 on gas this year. I don't even know if that's accurate, but that sounds kind of low. Um, and then I also have this spreadsheet where I keep track of the days that I've worked and what days I've taken off and vacation, whatever. Similar to what you would have at a typical job, right? They just kind of have a calendar view of what you're doing. Um, I just started this one, so move on from there. And then really the last thing would be my this spreadsheet here. So once I have all that shit tracked, right? I have my expenses tracked, and I have, everything tracked. I take everything over to this profit calculator. So with the profit calculator, it takes everything into account. So put aside some money for TurboTax, car wash, phone, Maestro, supplies. These are the numbers from July, by the way. Uh, Unreimbursed expenses, maintenance, gas, all that stuff. And then it spits out my net profit. So last month I did $5,100 gross, and my net profit was $3,600. And this depends, everyone can calculate this shit differently. Um, Personally, I'm very conservative with how much money I set aside for maintenance and stuff. So last month I put aside $430 for maintenance, and I put aside $117 to replace my car when it's time. Um, so yeah, I'm very conservative with how much money I set aside, but so it depends how you want to look at it. But 5,100 bucks. Only spent $251 on gas. Um, and then if I put aside 12% for taxes, which is, pretty, 12 to 16% for taxes, roughly where I'm usually at. $600 for taxes, and then again, yeah, $400 for maintenance, and then car payment. So that's pretty much it. I think I'll go through this shit in a different video. I might actually already have a video about this, how to calculate. I think I already made a video about how to calculate yeah, I did make a video about how to calculate your maintenance and repairs, cost per mile. That's what it was. I made a video how to calculate your cost per mile. So I'll actually put a link on the video so that you can click that. If you want to know how to calculate cost per mile, you can go watch that video. Um, Cost per mile is basically just how much it costs you for every mile that you drive. Your tires are wearing down, your oil is wearing out, your fucking coolant's wearing out, all that shit as you're driving, your brakes. So you want to know how much that's actually costing you per mile in order to determine your profitability on any given trip. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna talk about in this video because I'm getting fucking tired of hearing myself speak. So hopefully the kind of the point of me making this video was, just to give someone an idea of like what it would look like to 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 actually keep track of all this shit. And I know this shit, I don't know if anyone, there's gonna be anybody in the entire fucking universe who's gonna watch this video to this point, but um I know all these spreadsheets look overwhelming, and I'm definitely not saying that you need to have these spreadsheets. Uh, I'm not saying that like anything like you don't need to have any of this shit to. I mean, you're gonna need some fucking spreadsheets, but you don't need to have all the shit that I have like all of a sudden. Like if you're just right now vibe dashing where you're just fucking signing on and then just like making money, coming home and just fucking doing whatever the fuck that you do with your life. Um, y- you're not gonna like just make all these spreadsheets in one fucking day. Just if I was a new dasher, I would personally try to just try to organize the money, right? Like know how much you're spending on gas, know how much you're spending, how much does it cost for maintenance, all that shit. All right, good luck.